Life as Man United manager has already been pretty crazy for Erik Ten Hag. He's quickly changed the club and stamped his authority on the squad, dumping Cristiano Ronaldo in the process. So what makes Ten Hag tick? Let's take a deep dive into what it's like being Erik Ten Hag. Home life. Erik Ten Hag was interested in football from a young age. He was driven to succeed, but unlike some players, he wasn't always backed by his parents. His father, a successful real estate businessman, had hoped Ten Hag would follow in his footsteps. Erik persevered and eventually forged a successful pro career, where he had 3 spells at FC Twente, as well as playing for De Graafschap, RKC Waalwijk, and FC Utrecht. He never made the national side during his playing days. Then came Ten Hag's shift into management, and he's never looked back. Little is actually known about Ten Hag's private life, preferring to keep them out of the public eye, but he is married to his childhood sweetheart Bianca, and the pair have 3 children together. Besides watching Piers Morgan interviews, Ten Hag's hobbies outside of football consist of golf, travelling, listening to music, and rumour has it he's a nifty dancer. In truth, it's believed Ten Hag's devotion to football doesn't leave much room for anything else, besides his family of course. Let's look at the next key ingredient in Ten Hag. Management style. In truth, most United fans didn't have much of an idea who Ten Hag was. He was highly successful as a manager in the Dutch league, but the difference between the Eredivisie and the Premier League is pretty huge. In a short space of time, he's displayed a couple of significant facets to his management style. He demands that everyone sings from the same hymn sheet. He's got no place for selfish attitudes, and no personality is too big for the club. Yes, Ten Hag did not bow to Ronaldo. See Ron's reaction and infamous interview with Morgan, then forced the hand of the club owners. You adhere to the plan or you're out. Bruno Fernandes has been causing issues for Ola and Ralph, but has slowly come around to the Ten Hag game plan. Also, work rate. Yes, Ten Hag wants players to run. United's average distance run per game was well below par under Rangnick. Ten Hag got the players fitter and got them running. That meant high pressing and aggressive pressing and quick turnovers. Ten Hag is hard, demanding, but fair. Another thing many don't know, he worked under Pep Guardiola at Bayern. There are distinct similarities between their respective styles, whilst Ten Hag still carries a very definite Dutch mentality. Ten Hag also likes to work closely with each player to understand their strengths and quirks. Whilst he wants everyone to give their all and work for the same goal, he appreciates different players need different approaches, be it the hardline approach or the arm around the shoulder approach. One thing's for sure, Ten Hag's presence has improved the performances of a number of players, but none more so than Marcus Rashford, who's playing like his old self again. Let's look deeper into his management. Football style and game plan. Ole Solskjaer seemed to send his players out and hope for the best. He tried to please everyone rather than instill discipline. Rangnick, well, the less said about Ralph's tenure the better. Ten Hag starts from the back. He wants a solid base. He plays from the back. You'd expect nothing less from a Dutch gaffer. Ten Hag likes a high line to maintain a front foot. He's pulled this line back a little at times during his United tenure whilst the side adapts, so he's not averse to pragmatism. Quick transitions mean he wants midfielders who can run and players with vision and passing accuracy. He also needs an anchorman who can mop up and turn the ball over quickly. In Casemiro, he has that. His style also requires aggressive front pressing and quick players. Whilst United perhaps lack a top-class focal point up front, they have seen a marked improvement in Rashford and to a lesser extent Martial under Ten Hag. In truth, Ten Hag's style might be closer in theory to Sir Alex than any of the post-Fergie managers the club have hired. It's also a more polished and modernised evolution of that direct, quick-tempo attacking style. In terms of formation, Ten Hag has historically used a 4-3-3 system or a 4-2-3-1, and fluidity whilst in possession is the order of the day. In the January window, Ten Hag will know which players he wants to keep and who he needs to move on. He'll undoubtedly dip into the transfer market to find a top striker, and he's likely to want young and hungry players. Once he's shaped the squad into his own image, we'll probably see him revert to something even closer to the style he adopted at Ajax. You can't necessarily play too high a line if you're playing Harry Tugboat Maguire, for example, and United's backline still needs major upgrades. Discipline. Whether it's Fabio Capello's ketchup and wag bands or Unai Emery demanding his players watch through the entirety of every match in post-game analysis, plenty of managers have their own distinct rules. Sometimes players react positively and take it on board, other times they find themselves at odds with the manager. Yes, Ten Hag is fair if you play by the rules, but he's a serious guy. He has rules and he expects you to follow them. These include no mobile phones at mealtimes and fines for being late. Ten Hag's idea is that strict rules should unite a team to pull together. It also helps weed out the bad apples. Let's take a look at the final pieces of this Ten Hag jigsaw. Routines and methods. Ten Hag is a modern manager who uses all the technology that's in vogue. He uses in-depth analysis and stats to see where he can improve team performance and individual performance, as well as specialist trainers and dietitians to ensure players are in peak physical condition. He's not alone, of course, but like the best managers, he wants to stay ahead of the curve. One thing clubs don't always deeply consider is players' mental health or mentality. Players have to recover from disappointments, deal with personal issues, depression and more. With so many representatives away at Qatar, Ten Hag sought to ensure whether they came back with a winner's medal like Lisandro Martinez or from a disappointing campaign like Casemiro, that they were mentally able to focus back on Premier League action. He did this by employing specialty mind coaches from the Dutch Academy Talent Academy group. With the Premier League leaping back into action so soon after the World Cup, Ten Hag has made sure his squad is ready to cope with the shift to club football. Mentally, physically and tactically, they should be able to cope with fixture congestion and the pressures of improving on Rangnick's dreadful finish to the previous season. Winning mentality. It's funny, when you look historically at some of the great managers, there are a few players who won trophies galore, but then lacked the winner's touch at management level. Gerrard and Lampard have struggled in the managerial jump to the Premier League, for example. Roy Keane was the best in the business, but didn't have the temperament to manage varied personalities. Meanwhile, plenty of average players went on to be hugely successful managers such as Alex Ferguson, Jose Mourinho and Jurgen Klopp. Ten Hag falls into the latter category, a fairly middling player whose analytical ability and attention to detail have made him a great manager. At Ajax, he won the league 3 times as well as a Dutch Cup. Okay, you might say that it's mostly a 2-horse division, but he still managed to win. His Ajax side also had some solid European runs, but never quite enough quality to win. He did manage to get Ajax into a Champions League semi-final, which is no mean feat, given the club has struggled for years to make any impact in the Champions League, despite their glorious European past history. His time under serial winner Pep Guardiola will also have rubbed off on him. Is he a master's protege? That's how Mourinho started, as a number 2 to managers like Bobby Robson. The expectation is high at Man United, but Ten Hag is level-headed, adaptable and proactive. As good as Mourinho is as a manager, he will stay on the path for better or worse and walk away when he's lost the fans in the dressing room. Do United have the financial clout to compete with City anymore? Can they build a side that will compete for the league again, or at least challenge for some silverware? In the short term, Ten Hag's first goal is to stabilise the club and have a decent top 4 push. If they can finish ahead of the stumbling Liverpool, all the better, and no doubt Klopp will be reeling off every excuse under the sun. Time will tell. Ten Hag won't make signings just to appease fans' lust for a marquee name. He'll buy players to fit the club, his style and tactics. What are your thoughts on Erik Ten Hag? Let us know in the comments.